The purpose of the Global CFO Council is to provide an educational and networking forum for senior financial executives in order to share best practices, discuss current financial issues, and to learn about current topics related to the performance of their jobs.
Good afternoon, Ben. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you.
I am very excited to do this. Before we started talking, I was recorded in a recorded fashion. I had shared with you that yesterday it was so hot I had to take off my jacket here in Charleston, and you were telling me that it's 0 degrees in Iowa.
Correct.
God bless you. That is awesome. Just so you know, in case nobody's told you, the border is open, and you are allowed to freely live anywhere in the United States if you want to.
I
But
appreciate the invitation.
Ben Wickum does live in Iowa, and he's the chief financial officer of Collins Community Credit Union. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, sir.
Looks like you had a career as a CPA also, and got your undergraduate in English from, is it Hamline University?
Hamlin.
And an MBA in accounting from the University of St. Thomas. Is that correct, sir?
Yes.
And you are a certified public accountant, and you're also very lucky. Do you know why you're very lucky?
How so?
Is because I've been so busy, I wasn't able to find anything super interesting about you. Normally, I scour the internet doing my research and find something slightly embarrassing / slightly cool, and I didn't get to find anything about you. So we're going to have to learn about you during the interview, and I'm looking forward to it, Ben. I really appreciate you doing this.
My pleasure.
Well, let's get started. Ben, question number 1. What is your favorite business book and why?
It was a book that my wife got me hooked up with. The title is called Grit by Angela Duckworth. It's really good. It rung true with me. She talks about her dad telling her that she's no genius. And I had equally inspiring comments from mostly my dad, but that the kind of general theme that success isn't bestowed on the gifted. It's those that work for it, being able to handle adversity and struggle and fight to succeed. So it's a big. I coach a little bit, and I tell the kids that I coach our ability to handle adversity and its attitude and effort. So that book really rung true for me.
How true. I had someone say recently that success looks like somebody in overalls with dirt on their hands. And you can pray for a hole and lean on a shovel, or you can just get to work. And
Yep.
I like that book. I'm gonna check that out. Thank you for that recommendation. Question number 2 is, what is the best advice that you have ever received?
I would have to say that someone once said, never take yourself too seriously. And it was more about being grounded, and no matter what you are and what you're doing, not to get so full of yourself that you can't joke about what's happening, and be a little bit lighthearted. My family might use examples that I'm sometimes laugh at inappropriate times as I try to lighten the mood. But I try not to take myself too seriously. There's a ton of material to disparage myself. So I'd say I'm pretty affable related to that. So I like to make comments, and it helps endear yourself to the people that you're with and the teams that you're on. And I think it's a great way to break some tension, so that everybody understands that no one's being held to an unreasonable standard. We're all trying to work and get better a little bit at a time.
Amen. Amen. Ben, question number 3. What is a new tool that you've recently started using, or a habit that you've recently picked up that you have found beneficial?
One of the things that I have a challenge with is trying to communicate financial information that can be incredibly complex to non-financial people, specifically my board of directors. I just had a meeting on this week on Tuesday night, and trying to convey things, and not necessarily in a demeaning fashion, but I have a 14-year-old and 11-year-old, and I try to think about how I would explain something to them and try to speak to be understood, and as opposed to speaking to try to convey something super complicated that makes it sound like I'm, a rocket scientist. So it's trying to connect, and then trying to connect that also with other parts of our credit union. So there's a lot of people that, although they're familiar with financial products and services, the actual back house part of it on how our financials work and how that they can affect that in a good or bad way is one of the things that's been a challenge for me. And so I'm trying to make that a little more understandable and break it down. And so trying to slow down and make sure I get cues from people that they're connecting with the message that I'm delivering, rather than trying to slam through a bunch of information in 30 seconds.
Yeah, that is so true. I've noticed sometimes I just use vocabulary that's common to me, that is foreign to others. And
Yep.
I've been studying something for 20 years, and I just breeze by something that's a really important foundational piece. And I think that's important to have a heart of a teacher. That's a good reminder to all of us. So thank you. And
Yep.
speaking of your current job, what's the best part of your current job?
I would say the opportunities I get to problem solve. I like to look at things from a different perspective. We are, as a financial institution, we're in the risk mitigation business. Some people look at that as to how do I find ways to say no? How do I find a risk that can't be mitigated that then says, stop, we're done? And I like to think about it as, how can we get to yes? What can we do to get creative to solve that problem and mitigate it in some way, shape, or form that is going to allow us to then move to that next step so that we can get to yes? Because trying to think about that is what differentiates us from our competitors. And so being able to work with, typically it's one of our lenders or our folks with different products and services to go, yep, there's some inherent risk here, especially as you deal with private information. The talk earlier today about ransomware and what information is out there and what people are risking, that we have a significant amount of risk that we could or do take at times. But if we do it in the right way, we can connect with people and form really strong relationships that ultimately make us profitable.
I find that really refreshing about credit unions as um, a not-for-profit business where they have members, not shareholders, that they're more willing to have a conversation with somebody, say, who is just starting out and they're looking for some sort of debt instrument, or they have some questions about, hey, I have this dream of a business. And credit unions are usually a little more willing to have conversations with you and walk through, if they're not giving you money, why? And you just need a little more history, you need a little more credit, you need a little more down payment. And I think that's awesome that we have options for people in America, kind of your normal many different financial institutions. So I think that's great, and that you serve the membership in Iowa, I think is awesome.
Yep. Thank you.
What is something personal, Ben, that you wouldn't mind sharing with the rest of the CFO Council members, since I came up light?
Let's see. Well, I wouldn't be where I am today, obviously, without my parents. But a special nod to my mom. She was a single parent for much of my childhood, and came late into being an accountant, a CPA, and she's the one that nudged me in the right direction. She is 5'2" dynamo. She recently retired, and I owe a great deal to her. She's very intense. She is very results oriented. And so instilled a lot of that in me, and the competitive spirit that I was involved in sports as a kid and into college. And a lot of that has gotten me where I am now. And she's the one that nudged me in the direction of getting my CPA, and then actually going back to school to get my graduate degree and started me down this path. So I love the council's work with the group that we benefit as far as helping women in the careers in accounting. That really is awesome, and I think there's not enough that we can do to help folks, to help women see that ability and see that that there huge roles here in this space. My mom is one of those that had some help along the way. And so anything I can do to help on that behalf myself with the next generation and the next phase of the workforce, that's awesome.
Very cool. Sounds like we both have super moms and maybe a couple mama's boys on the call
Yes.
today. What's the
Yes.
Cliff Notes version of how you went from being a history major in college to a prestigious accountant CPA? What's the Cliff Notes on that? That's a pretty cool pivot.
I went to school wanting to be a lawyer, and so and then stumbled across an accounting class. I think it was my junior year, and connected with a professor, and then knew, of course, that my mom was in that career and started asking her some questions, and the opportunities that are in this arena are much broader than what most people would stereotype as your typical bean counter. And so that was something that opened the door for me to start exploring. And that caused me then to hurry up and get my degree so I could get out into the working world. But then went to school nights and weekends to get my MBA in accounting. And that's it.
Very cool. Very cool. Question number 6, last question. It happened so fast. Is Ben, what is something that I should have asked you that I didn't? And what is your answer to that?
I would think thought about this for a little while. Thank you for the warning on the question, because I would have been a deer in headlights if not. Mostly it's geared, what do you do outside of work? And to my earlier comments, I coach. I like to stay active. I like my kids to be active, so I've coached my son in football and baseball, and my daughter in baseball and basketball. We're actually in the midst of basketball season for my daughter, pandemic aside and bone-chilling temperatures aside. So trying to instill some fundamental things that go beyond just the physical, and really reinforcing attitude, effort, handling adversity. It's how you respond to it that differentiates you from your competitors, and it starts with you. So you got to make that change yourself, and then rally around your teammates and help them to get through the adverse times as well.
That's awesome. I'm seeing a theme here from the book. From the go was around that grit, and you got a great example you saw in your life in your mom. And I think that kids will follow our lead before they'll follow our advice. So you saw it in your mom, and it impacted your life, and your kids are seeing it right now with you. So well done, Ben. I enjoyed this conversation. I enjoyed getting to learn more about you. Thank you for all you do in your community at the credit union and all the members that you serve. Very well done.
Excellent. Thank you, Robert. Appreciate the opportunity.
Have a great day.
All right.